So today we're talking about fishing. It's Friday, fish day, traditional day when, Catholics would eat fish. Not anymore. And that's one of the reasons why fishing in this country is such in a bad state. Because people do not eat fish anymore. People's tastes have changed. Meat is a lot more cheaper than it used to be, and so on and so on. But that's one of the many reasons why fishing has essentially just depleted. But it should come to no surprise to anyone, as we've talked about why the fishing industry is in the state it is today, primarily because of there are two types of fishermen. So this is be a quick rundown and try and catch everyone up. If not, go back, watch my previous episodes about fishing. So we'll give a quick rundown. So essentially there are two types of fishermen. There are the small boat fishermen, which are the predominant people who are the most annoyed about the common fisheries policy, anything, you name it. They're the ones that feel left out by the government. The other side are the big fisheries. These are the people with the big, massive boats. And to put this into context, a big, massive boat, or these big trawlers, can do in a day what it takes one of these smaller fishing boats to do in a month. So that's the difference that you're dealing with. So you have again a myriad of problems. You have massive population, massive issue of overfishing. The fishing industry recognises this is a problem. This is why fishing quotas were introduced. This is why the UK government introduced its own fishing quota. This is why all the countries decided to get together and form a common fisheries policy. Now, this has worked for other countries. I'm not saying that there aren't problems with, the fishing industry in other countries, say France, Spain, Denmark, Norway, whatever, but the common fishery policy has always worked. Why? Because they have actually had politicians who are actually interested in trying to solve their problems. The main problem for the UK fishing industry is that Nigel Farage has convinced the small, the little guy of the fishing industry in the UK that somehow it is the fault of the EU, that they are not doing well, and it's not. Nigel Farage is the person who is in charge of going to the execs and sitting on the board and representing UK fishermen. He has only ever been to one meeting, meaning he has done nothing. He's done nothing to help British fishermen. Not only that, he has not even gone to Westminster and said, hey, Westminster, we need to do X, Y, and Z to help these little guys out. He's not even done that. So this idea that Nigel Farage is somehow the saviour of the UK fishing industry is completely false. And if you may remember, going back to the 2016 referendum, almost, I think it was about 2 or 3 months after the referendum, Grimsby, one of the big fishing ports in the UK, came out and said they want a special exemption. Yes, you heard that right. They voted to leave, but they wanted a special exemption so that they could remain in the EU. Now, why has this happened? Well, basically, one of the big fishing industry guys in this, I can't remember his name now, but I'll leave a link to it down below, has basically come out and said, look, the UK fishing industry will not survive a no deal. It will die. Why? Because, wait for it, 85 to 90% of all the fish that the British fisheries, shall we say, catch, go to the EU. So that is going to be a massive impact on their industry, because all of a sudden tariffs, whoop, back up they go. So this idea that there is going to be this amazing renaissance in fishing somehow. It's mind-blowing, but, you know, it's not going to happen because this is, again, one of the fantasy promises of the Brexiteers. Remember, the UK signed up to the Common Fisheries Policy and even had its own fishing policy because it recognised the problem of overfishing. And in a way, the UK fishing policy was actually a lot more restrictive and worse than the Common Fishery Agriculture Policy. We also have a problem that these big trawlers control the fishing rights to the majority of the UK waters. And whereas these little guys tend to have about 1%. But remember, in an industry standard, remember this, these little guys cannot compete with these big guys at all in any way, shape or form. Remember what we said at the start of this video. These big trawlers can do in a day what it takes one of these small boats a month to do. So the idea of these little guys saying, oh, we want to be able to catch more fish, how? How are you going to achieve this? Now, I agree that if they want more access, then they need to do it, but they also need to be aware of overfishing, because this is a massive problem, which is something we need to keep on top of. So there is definitely a need of redistribution, but these small fisheries, remember, one of the big problems that was caused and why they are so complaining is they complain, oh, the quotas that we have to catch, they're not enough. We have so much waste, it's wasteful. The EU even agreed and increased the quotas, but the problem is the EU based their quotas on what the British small industry fishermen told them. The problem was that the small boat fishing industry guys lied to the EU, saying that, oh, we only catch this amount when we actually can catch this amount, thinking that somehow that if they said the smaller amount, they'd be able to get a bigger quota. It's so dumb. When you really look into this whole fishing nonsense, it's completely dumb. So, and not only that, the British fishing industry represents less than 1% of the GDP of the United Kingdom. If you could pick one industry that would disappear and not affect the UK, it would be the fishing industry. And I know that's a harsh thing to say, but it's true. And one of the other problems these guys have faced, again, lack of investment over the years in these, in these ports and coastal towns. This again has been a problem of the Tory government not investing in these towns. UKIP has never once stated in their manifesto that they are going to invest in these towns. But their big play in their manifesto was they would do away with quotas. So if you're going to do away with quotas, that means will absolutely lead to overfishing. So if you want any more proof that UKIP have no idea and were never really any sort of political, basically a paid-for political pressure group, there you have it. Their manifesto was always a copy and paste of the Conservative manifesto, just with more, far right in it. And it's no surprise that they have attracted in more recent times, again, since Farage left, and again, we've discussed this before, Farage managed to suppress a lot of the far-right elements in UKIP. That's why. So, don't believe a lot of these ridiculous Brexiteer lies and nonsense about the fishing industry. The EU has done lots and lots to try and help the fishing industry in the UK. The problem was that, first of all, the fishermen lied to the EU about their quotas. And the other problem was that their own government, which could have done lots, it could have maybe offered them, fuel subsidies, things like that, maybe, bigger tax, what they called, more, if so much amount of fuel means you get so much tax back. I can't remember what the word is, but there you go. There's so much more Westminster could have actually done. And remember, Westminster has ignored the fishing industry primarily because of, it is such a minuscule part of our economy. Not only that, you have the massive swathe of the control of the fishing industry is literally controlled by 5 families. And if you want to look at a big scandal in the fishing industry, which, by the way, Leave never comes up, neither did Nigel Farage ever take issue to, was go and look at what they call it, the blackfish scandal. It was a couple of years ago, and this was, again, fishing industry people basically catching more fish than they saying they were, and then selling it on in secret. They were basically saying that the cod wasn't cod, it was something else. Again, to try and get around the quotas. So it was a big, massive scandal. Again, go and look it up. So that's that. Today, and oh my word, yes, I know, Theresa May in Ireland, I know, I covered it yesterday, but oh...